The global trade landscape is fraught with tension, as the United States, under the Trump administration, continues to escalate tariff threats on Chinese goods. This trade war, simmering for months, reached a boiling point with the US announcing a potential tariff increase to a staggering 104%. This aggressive move has sent shockwaves through international markets and ignited fears of a full-blown trade war between the world's two largest economies. The Trump administration justifies these tariffs as a necessary measure to counter what it perceives as unfair trade practices by China. The US accuses China of intellectual property theft, forced technology transfers, and currency manipulation, all of which, they argue, have put American businesses at a disadvantage. The tariffs, according to the US Trade Representative, are a means to protect American jobs and intellectual property. However, critics argue that these tariffs are counterproductive and will ultimately harm American consumers and businesses. They point to the rising costs of imported goods and the disruption of global supply chains as evidence of the tariffs' negative impact. Moreover, they argue that the tariffs are ineffective in addressing the underlying issues in the US-China trade relationship. Despite mounting criticism, the Trump administration remains resolute in its stance, arguing that the tariffs are necessary to bring China to the negotiating table and achieve a fair trade deal. However, with both sides digging in their heels, the prospect of a quick resolution seems increasingly unlikely, leaving the global economy on tenterhooks. The escalating trade tensions have created a climate of uncertainty, with businesses and investors alike bracing for the impact of a protracted trade war. China, for its part, has shown no signs of backing down from what it perceives as economic bullying by the United States. In response to the US tariff threats, China has vowed to retaliate with countermeasures of its own, targeting key sectors of the US economy. The Chinese government has made it clear that it will not be intimidated by US pressure tactics and is prepared to engage in a tit-for-tat trade war. One of China's primary targets is the US agricultural sector, a sector heavily reliant on the Chinese market. China has already imposed tariffs on US soybeans, pork and other agricultural products, and there are fears that these tariffs could be further tightened, potentially leading to a ban on US poultry. Such a move would have a devastating impact on American farmers, many of whom are already struggling with low commodity prices. Beyond agriculture, China is also considering measures to restrict US film releases in Chinese cinemas and curtail cooperation on combating the fentanyl trade. These measures are designed to inflict economic pain on the US while also undermining its soft power and its efforts to address the opioid crisis. China's retaliatory actions demonstrate its willingness to use its economic leverage to defend its interests and deter further aggression from the United States. The escalating trade war has raised concerns about a decoupling of the US and Chinese economies, which would have far-reaching consequences for the global economy. As the two superpowers engage in a game of economic brinkmanship, the rest of the world watches with bated breath, hoping for a de-escalation of tensions and a return to a rules-based trading system. The trade war between the US and China has sent ripples of uncertainty across the globe, prompting various reactions and diplomatic maneuvers from other nations. South Korea, a key player in the global tech supply chain and heavily reliant on trade, has chosen a different approach, opting for diplomacy over confrontation. President Han Duck-soo has emphasized that South Korea will not engage in retaliatory measures and instead seeks a negotiated solution. South Korea's strategy involves leveraging its economic ties with both the US and China to facilitate dialogue and find common ground. They aim to position themselves as a neutral mediator, hoping to de-escalate tensions and prevent further damage to the global trading system. Their diplomatic efforts highlight the delicate balancing act many nations face as they navigate the complexities of this trade war. Meanwhile, the UK, grappling with its own set of challenges post-Brexit, is closely monitoring the situation. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has acknowledged the huge implications of the US-China trade war for the global economy and is engaging in discussions with her US counterpart to understand the potential fallout. The Bank of England, while acknowledging the risks, has expressed confidence in the UK's economic resilience. The global community is increasingly wary of the collateral damage from this trade war. Many countries are caught in the crossfire, facing pressure to choose sides or risk becoming collateral damage in this economic standoff. The situation underscores the interconnectedness of the global economy and the need for multilateral solutions to address trade disputes.